Well, Cynthia, yeah, as you mentioned, pressure continues to mount on the province to reopen the economy. But despite promising COVID-19 modeling numbers released on Monday, health and government officials are still treading lightly there. Part of that may be because of hard lessons learned from the past. Back in 2003, officials at one point believed that SARS had been contained, only to have to deal with a second deadly wave of infection.
We were the only country in the world to have had that happen. So, we definitely opened up too quickly after SARS 1. There's no doubt.
Dr. Michael Gardam worked on the front lines of the SARS outbreak. When it first hit in March 2003, extraordinary precautionary measures were taken under the direction of the Ministry of Health and Public Health officials. The focus was mainly on hospitals, where the virus was most likely to spread. 27 people died in that first wave. By mid-May, officials believed to have the spread contained, and those measures were lifted. But soon after, a second wave emerged after an outbreak at 2 facilities was missed. When you realized the second wave was happening, what went through your head?
Absolute despair. I remember it very well because we were all celebrating that SARS 1 was over. When we had to go back into all the isolation again, the mood definitely shifted and people were far more angry because they put up with it once. They were not planning on doing this again.
The second outbreak claimed the lives of an additional 17 people. At the time, some argued that the government was partly to blame, too quick to declare the outbreak over in a rush to boost an economy that suffered greatly because of the virus. Janet Ecker was the finance minister during that period.
Do you think that it was a factor in the province saying we had this contained, it's done and over with, when in fact it wasn't?
I don't think so. I mean, there's no question that because it wasn't the kind of existential threat to Toronto, to Ontario that we're seeing now. So it was easy for the issue to be politicized, and I'm not criticizing anybody for that. Governments are held accountable for the decisions they make or they don't make.
When you look back on it now, was it too soon?
I'll let the historians make that judgment. It was a judgment call at the time that the government made, that the health professions made about, when people thought it was safe. I think what it does do is underline how important it is that we don't rush this.
It's a real balancing act. So let's just hypothetically say we just said, to hell with it, we're opening everything up today. We would be in a New York City type situation within about 3 weeks.
Now, Dr. Gardam says even though it may appear that Ontario has hit its peak, we'd still need to be on the downslope before looking at what restrictions can be lifted slowly. He says we're in this for another few weeks before officials will even begin to consider what can be opened up. As for when things will go completely back to normal across the country, he doesn't believe that will happen until well into next year.